Now, one of the things I'm going to do is get a lot of the on-screen clutter out of my way here. And the way I'm going to do that is by, again, going back to the Channel Box Layer Editor, and I'm going to throw all of my controls into a control layer, right? So if I grab this, I'm going to, oh, 1 second here. So that was my geometry. I want to make sure I've got these guys labeled correctly, right? So I'm going to come in here and layer 1. I generally leave the layer naming convention because for some reason in the background, Maya treats layers like another actor or object, right? So if I call this Geo, it's going to say, well, something else is called Geo, which is my group, and I'll say there's a naming conflict, which is a bit strange. But there you go. So I'm going to call this layer 1 Geo, so there's no naming conflict. I'm going to save that, right? So we got that guy sorted, and I'm going to grab my controls, and I'm going to add that to another layer. I'm going to check the visibility. Yep, that's my controls, right? I can also move that layer down below my geometry layer, right? And I'm going to call this my layer 2 controls, right? I'll save that off. And I don't want to minimize this. Let's keep this over here. Actually, let's nest this in over on the side here. It's not going to nest it in here for me, is it? Nope, it's not going to nest it. That's okay. So I'm going to turn off the visibility on those guys, and we'll investigate our IK spline chain here. So we're going to go over to the rigging menu set over here, and I'm going to come into my deformers. Oh, no, it's not the deformers. It is skeleton IK spline handle tool, and I'll open up the option box. Let's get kind of an idea of what's going on, right? So root on curve means that the first joint will be locked to the root of the curve. So we'll start our guy here. And then we've got auto parent the curve. So what that's going to do is it's basically going to parent the curve into the hierarchy. So you don't have to worry about this. Now, this is also closely related to the auto create curve. The auto create curve will extrapolate the curve based on the location of each of those joints for you. Now you can also turn this off and you can hand draw whatever curve that you want. So if you want to be a little bit more specific about the curve, and then you can include that in creating your IK spline handle tool. It'll just use your custom curve. But we're just going to auto create the curve. Now, I'll show you what I was talking about with the spans, right? So there's an auto simplify curve where it says, okay, we'll simplify the curve and we'll make sure there's only 2 spans for you. So this gives you sort of a limited number of CVs to push and pull to control the arc of that curve. And so I'll show you how this works, right? If we come in here and we leave those settings and we click on the first and then the last, right? It'll create that curve. But it actually didn't jump or deform. That's kind of, it did, yeah, a little bit. Notice how the joint chains have split apart now, right? So we don't want that, right? Because it's going to pull it a little bit, right? So let's come in here and let's go and grab. It's just made me realize, by the way, that I haven't colored the skeleton. So we'll come back and do that in a second. So I can come in here. Actually, we also need to grab our bind skin joints, right? And we'll select the hierarchy of that. And I'll put that in its own layer. Turn the visibility off. So this layer will be our bind, let's call it skeleton. Bind skeleton. And that way, that's kind of missing. And we can come into our FK tail and we'll right click, select the hierarchy, make sure we grab all the FK ones, pop that into its own layer as well. And this will be layer scale FK, right? So we're going to deal with that guy later as well. And then finally, I'm going to right click, select hierarchy. I'm going to create a layer for this guy as well, and I'll show you why. We want to make sure we've got our joints properly separated. So if I turn this off, can I turn this on? Will that be my FK skeleton? It's hard to tell if you've got the right skeleton or not, right? So let's go in there and see if we can't color code these guys as well, right? So there's got to be a way of right-clicking, selecting hierarchy, yeah, and coming in here and doing a draw or display override on everything. Now, I suppose I could use layers, but yeah, let me show you that just as a different technique. I like to do it here per object so that it's not layer dependent, but I'll show you. We can also come in here, double click on skeleton bind, and we can say, all right, color those guys green, right? So that is cool and did not work. Color those guys green. Yeah, there you go. So those are those joints. And if I come into my IK and turn on my IK, right? Okay, so let's just trying to think here now. So I've got that. If I were to double click on my IKs, let's make our IK chain red, just like we did with our controllers, right? Turn that off. Those are our bind joints. That's those ones. And let's turn on our FK, right? So I'll right click, select hierarchy, and we'll double click and we'll make these guys blue. I'm going to turn on my controls again just to make sure. Yeah, FK is blue, right? So now we can work with singular joint chains at a time, right? So that I'm just double checking because I'm a little bit nervous about, I'd rather just color the objects. Those are my FKs. And these should be my IKs. Okay, cool. So that's my IK tool. So now I know, just by doing that I'm working with my IK skeleton, right? So that's super handy to have that color coding system in place. So let's go through and we'll go to our skeleton IK spline handle tool and we'll open the option box again. Let's try a span of 4 curves, right? So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to click the root and click the tip. Now again, if you'd created your own custom curve, you'd also have to select the curve last and then it'll include that. Now I'm going to turn on my bound skeleton. It's close, but there's still a little bit of an offset. Can you guys see that? So what we'll likely do instead, we got our IK skeleton. I'm going to turn off the bind skeleton visibility for a second. We're going to, with the IK skeleton visible, we're going to move back out. I'm going to come down here to skeleton, IK spline handle tool, and what we'll do is we'll turn off auto simplify curve, right? So what this will do is it will create a CV at every joint location, right? And then so if we come in here a little bit closer, let's light up our FK, right? Perfect alignment. The bind skin, perfect alignment, right? I'm just double checking. So that's good, right? So now we've got our IK handle tool, right? And if I come over to, this is our IK curve. So I'm going to rename that curve 1 IK. Actually, let's put that as a prefix. IK curve 1, right? And then we have our IK handle tool will be at the end effector. So I'm going to shift left click there. It unfurls it and, oh, sorry, IK handle's here, right? So I got that IK handle. and that's kind of set up. Now, I'm always a little bit confused on where the curve and the IK handle belong in the hierarchy. So we're going to investigate that. I'm going to try a few different things just to make sure that we've got a really, really good placement for that, right? So let's just bomb it ahead, and we can see that by turning off the auto spans, we've got that sorted. Oh yeah, a few different things that would be interesting to sort of look at as well. So the IK handle itself has a couple of built-in features that I've never really kind of explored. So it's this, roll and twist. So in here, we can actually roll the entire joint chain, right? Where every single kind of joint rolls equally, right? The twist is interesting to me. Now I'd use the twist. So the twist, if you guys can see, it actually operates where as if you're grabbing the end of it and twisting it. And so this rolls faster, but then it steadily decreases in speed and rotation. So it's effectively twisting where it's locked down in one base. You can see that again. Watch carefully, this rotation versus that one. So when I'm moving it, the top one moves faster. That feels like a very natural twist. And it's something that I would definitely like to explore, right? So if we pop over to the attribute editor, we can see the roll and the twist functionality in the IK spline solver. Oh, is it in the IK handle? IK handle solver attributes. There we go, right? So the roll and the twist. And you can so if we click root twist mode, that will also include, I'll pop back out of the channel box, it'll also include the root of the chain. And I most definitely want that. So I've included that in the solver, right? Okay, so let's pop back over to, oh yeah, okay, so advanced twist controls. This is kind of interesting, right? So, yeah, why not? Okay, I'll walk you through it. Okay, so with advanced twist controls, we can enable those advanced twist controls. And what that allows us to do is we can control the twist with objects, right? So if I say an object up, right, I'll be able to, let's go object up, start and end. I'll be able to control that twist with a couple of locators. So I'll come in here and let's create a locator. So a locator is about the simplest object that you could create. It's right here under the create menu. And all it is just a crosshairs. And calculation-wise, it is just a point in space. Right? Move this over here. And I'll control D this, duplicate it over. I don't believe you can freeze transforms on this. Just because it's the very kind of base root object. Yeah, so oh yeah, you can. Okay, cool. Right? So I got these guys. And I want to change the locator scale itself. Right? So let's see if we can change our local scales on these guys to 5. There we go. Right? So the benefit of changing the locator scale there is you can see my translate, rotates, and scales are completely zeroed out. Scales are at 1. So I've effectively changed the parameter at the creation level of the object, but not where the object sits in space, if that makes sense. Right? So I've got locator 1 here, locator 2 there. So if I pop back into the IK handle tool and we go back to the attribute editor, right? And if I say object up axis is Y, oh yeah, here we go. So the world objects, right? I can say that this guy is locator 1, right? And this guy, locator 2. That means I can grab this guy and do this, and it controls that twist, right? So that's kind of cool. I can do this one, and it controls the twist from the other end. I got it backwards, right? So we can have that sort of twist control functionality available to us. I'm going to delete those because I think it just sort of overcomplicates what we've got set up so far anyway. Now that I've put it in, it's like, nah, it's too complicated. But, you know, that functionality is there. It's kind of cool. I did want to play with that a bit, experiment with it, so that's cool. And that's the external rotation controller. Joint chain will automatically snap to that. Okay, so now we need to create our clusters, right? So here again, I probably want to, let's go back to our display editor. Let's hide our geometry for a second, and let's hide our joint chains, right? Well, I didn't create a group for the other joint chain, but that's okay, because I am after the IK curve. So I'm going to right click here. We've got another curve in here. What is that curve? There is an unusual, oh, unless that's a solver. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to grab the IK curve, right? Right click on it and get to the control vertices, right? Now we can make a cluster for each of these points, but you can also grab a cluster and make it for 2 points as well, right? Depending on how you want to do this. So let's actually light up our controls, right? Let's say, if I were to grab these cluster points, no, actually, we'll skip the root one. If we were to grab these guys and say that you're affected, whoops. That one and that. I'm just having a look here. So if we just clustered those points, might be too kind of linear for my liking. But if we just grab a cluster point for that, that's not going to be good. Just trying to think what would be the best way to cluster these guys up. Yeah, let's try that, right? So let's group some of these guys together and see if we can create a, just having a quick look here. See, if we don't cluster each of those points, we'll get like just a really odd tail effect. Let me just try a couple of things here. Just want to take a look. Oops. So if I were to grab this guy, this guy, and this guy, I'm just wondering if we'll just get an odd tail shape. Yeah, we will get an odd tail shape. But then if we just have the one, tricky, tricky, tricky. I don't know if I like that, right? Because it's not giving sort of a smooth arc to what I want to do. All right, so let's rethink this a little bit. Let's what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. I don't like that setup. It's just too many CVs there. I think the 4 controllers are enough to get sort of a nice kind of look, right? So this is telling me I'll probably need to create a layer for the IK controls, and we'll color that color, right? And it doesn't override our drawing overrides, so that's good. But I'm going to make a separate sort of layer for these guys, right? Select the hierarchy. There you go. I'm going to pop that into another layer. Maybe move that down. And color that. And we'll call this layer. And controls. Okay. All right. Let's save this guy off. And we'll turn the visibility off there. That way I can see a little bit more what I'm doing. Now I'm going to also light up my IK joints, right? And let's go through and kill off that IK handle, and let's start again, right? So I'm going to grab this IK handle, going to delete it. We will have our subsequent curve, which is here. I'm going to delete that guy as well. Right? I'm just curious. I'm going to take a look at. All right. So let's see if we can create our own curve. I think that might actually be better. Let's give it a go, right? So, and I think we'll have, let me pop open the IK spline handle tool, right? So if we create our own curve, then it will give us control points on that curve, right? So we can control the number of spans just by the way we draw the curve. So let's do that. So I'm going to come in here now. I'm going to create a NURBS primitive. Oh, no, we want the CV tool, the create. Where are you? Where is my CV tool? Oh, they've moved it. I'm pretty sure it was in here. Unless we need to go into go back into our modeling menu for a quick sec. Let's see. Oh, surfaces. It's got to be in here. So surfaces, where's our CV tool? No, it's not in there. Create. Oh, there, curve tools. Ha, okay. So this is what we're after. The CV curve tool. Now I'm going to V-snap by holding on the V key and left clicking on that joint there. I'll left click on this joint here. I'm a little dubious as to what kind of curve this is going to make for me, but let's find out. I'm going to V-snap to that there, and I'm picking the points right where my controllers are. I'm going to V-snap to there. That's kind of what I want, just those controls, right? Let's pop back out in perspective view. I'm going to turn off my skeleton IK just to see what the curve is doing, right? If I right click on here and I go to control vertices, you can see the vertices are floating exactly at the point of the joints that I'd selected. So if I turn this on, you can see that, and the curve is sitting slightly underneath it. Now I'm concerned about whether or not when I do this, will the joints suddenly snap to that curve? I don't know, but let's find out. So that's kind of more of an accurate representation of the curve I want. I'm going to rename this IK curve, right? So let's try this. This is something new for me, guys. I've always used auto spans. I've never really created a curve in this manner before, so that's kind of cool. I'm gonna go over back to my rigging menu, go to skeleton, IK spline handle tool, right? And I'm going to turn off auto create curve, right? Snap curve to root. Let's not do any curve snapping just yet. Let's see how we go. So ideally it should be select a joint and select the end joint and defector, and it says pick the curve. It says down in the lower left-hand corner, it says LMB to pick curve for the handle, right? So we can pick it out of the viewport or from the outliner. I want to see what happens when I just grab it out of the viewport, right? Yes, it does realign. That's kind of unfortunate because I didn't want that to happen, right? So let's check. I wonder if there's things we can adjust in here in terms of auto snapping. That might help us out a little bit. So let's go back in the IK spline handle tool. Auto parent the curve. What happens if we snap the curve to the root? Let's try that, right? So let's snap the curve to the root. I'm going to grab this guy and then that guy, and then we'll go over here and we'll grab that curve. No, it's auto adjusting again because of the number of spans on that curve. Now I wonder if we can just eyeball this a bit. So yeah, let's do that. I'm going to use a different curve drawing tool. That's a little bit more, well, you'll see. So I'm going to come over to my curve tools and we'll try the EP curve tool, right? So I'm going to V-snap to there, and then to there, and there. There. I think we might get the same result out of this one. That's proving to be quite vexing in terms of how we're going to deal with this. You know what? I think to get this to work, what we're going to need to do, let's go back a little bit. Oops. Let's go back a little bit. Okay. So we got the joint chain. I'm going to go back to the regular CV curve tool. I thought the EP curve tool would follow more linearly when I create it. I don't know why I thought that. I've never used the EP curve tool, but I thought the last time I used it, it did just follow almost linearly through there. But that's all right. Let's try. Let's go back to the CV curve tool. That's the one that I most commonly use. There's a subtle difference between the two. I just can't remember what it is at the moment. Okay, so our problem is here. So let's see if we can just right click, go to the control verts, right? We got a control vert here. Whoops. Let's see if we can pop there. Let's turn off the skeleton for a sec. Just want to grab that. And let's turn off our controls. Let's grab this guy and turn the skeleton back on. Let's see if we can just raise this guy up, right? It's going to lift that one up a little bit. I think I know what I might need to do. I might need to add an additional curve. Let's try that for the root. That's kind of what's throwing the calculation off, isn't it? So let's zoom this back down. Let's make sure. So that's the IK curve. Let's delete these guys, right? So I'm gonna delete that IK curve and the IK handle. Right, let's get rid of those guys. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to skeleton, IK spline handle tool, no, create curve tools and a CV curve. So I'm going to V-snap this to here and then to here, and then I'm going to travel down and hit my spans. I'm hoping this gives us a better curve. It might. Let's keep going. So as we stretch this curve out, it'll start to level off the base a little bit. That's going to snap down though. Let's back this guy up a little bit. Whoa, what's it doing? go forward. Why did it do that? Oh, okay. Oh, let's come in here. The undo didn't travel down my hierarchy of undos. Okay, well. Just want to grab you guys, man. That's really bizarre. Oh, I'm just going to move this guy down. Up again, actually, and then make this layer. Controls, and then okay. Make blue. And hide you guys up. Okay. So we got visibility on that, but we've still got our curve here. Let's get rid of that curve. Oh, there's an IK handle in there somewhere. Let's get rid of that IK handle. Oh, let's zip up that and zip up the root and sorry, the body. Oh, that's the bind tail. And we've got the IK tail. Vector. Oh, there it is. IK handle. Let's get rid of the IK handle. And zip up the FK tail. Just dealing with this one. Okay, let's go back to the right view. I'm going to save this again. Undo Q wasn't traveling in the direction I was expecting it to travel. Oh, and I've got a meeting at 1. So I got to let you go, guys. I will tune in just a second.